Are you choosing your career or letting it choose you? This morning I was thinking about I went live last night on my Instagram page. If you're not following me there, you should be. I'm always there in some way, shape, form, or fashion, talking about something related to a career, what's going on, like in the job market. And that's the underscore MSW coach. Tell a friend and tell a friend. Follow me there, specifically in the stories. I'm always in there. Okay. Even if I don't make a post on my feed, I'm in the story sharing something that can help you on your journey. So, um, this morning I was in in my morning devotion and doing my personal development, and I was listening back to the live that I did last night on my Instagram page about why you need a career plan, right? And one of the things that I was talking about, because there was high engagement on that live. If you missed it, I loaded it to my podcast channel so you can go look in the episodes. It was the one that, posted February 24th, 2025, and it's titled Why Social Workers Need a Career Plan. It's also on my YouTube page. You can go back and look through my videos. But it was a lot of engagement from social workers around the world on that live. And one of the things they were asking me, one of the questions I got from someone in the live was around like my first macro job, right? And maybe it was before, maybe it was after. But somehow I started talking about the fact that I am currently living my career plan that I created. I said 5 years ago, but it's been almost 10 years at this point. 10 years ago in my first case management job. Um, I'm living it. And I was telling them about, I was looking on my desk for my notebook, my journal that I used to write my career plan in. You can't really see it because of the Zoom background, but it's an at a glance notebook because I love a good at a glance products. The paper makes you want to write. Um, I remember specifically before I created this career plan journal. I looked up because I always struggled with keeping a journal, right? Growing up, you had the diary with the lock and key. I had so many of those things that I would never write any. I just always struggled with it. I don't know why. So, but I knew that I needed to do something different in my career, right? This is when, like, I got the epiphany, like, Marthea, you know how to get jobs, teach yourself how to get these higher level jobs. Back then, I wasn't calling it macro jobs or macro social work. I didn't know what that was. I was still new in my MSW degree program. I just knew that I wanted to address some of the glaring inequities that I saw in the workforce development system that I work with career seekers. So I had did some research like how can I um get better at keeping a journal because I wanted to write out my career plan. And so I found this article. And I remember when I first jumped on the scene 5 years ago on my Instagram page, I shared this strategy and I read several different articles because I am a solution focused person, right? So when I don't have the information, I go to find answers, right? I invest in coaching. Like if there's something I want to know, I'm gonna go find it. Okay. And so I remember reading a few different articles. I think I even looked at some YouTube videos, and one of the things that I heard was that you will be more prone to writing out anything that you're working on when you have good quality paper and a good quality pen, right? And so that's when I went on the hunt for good quality paper because I can admit that was one of my struggles as well. I write very big, and all of this is important to the conversation. So take notes because you can start implementing this today. Because I'm telling you, everything I wrote in this journal I am living, right? I'm living it. I've done it. I've checked it off the list, right? And so one of the things that they said were like, if you have good quality paper, you'll be more prone, you'll be more excited about the writing of the process, right? So I went through and I bought all of these different journals, and I admit over the years, a lot of the reason why I didn't write is because one, I have really large handwriting. I just always have written large. I am the wide rule paper user. All of y'all use college rule. I buy wide rule paper, right? And it's always a hunt to try to find wide rule notebook paper. It always was in elementary and middle and high school. My mama always had to go an extra place to find that kind of notebook paper for me. But that is me, right? And then another thing is that I can't stand a cheap pen. Oh my gosh, you know those pens that they give you like at a restaurant, a everyday dining rest, a casual dining restaurant, and they give you the pen. It be those old cheap pens, or you get 1,000 pens for $2, and they be snagging, and the ink be skipping, and the pen be real light, and it be real skinny, and your hand be all cramped up by the time you tally up your tip and sign it and do all of the other things on both of the copies. I can't stand that. So that was another reason why I knew I needed to do something different to make me want to write, right? And when it came to paper quality, I can't stand when you're using a pen and it snag on the cheap paper, the paper so thin and it bleed through and all of the no. So I read that article, watched that video, one of the two, and I went and purchased me multiple journals, tested paper. I think I probably researched and learned that someone said like at a glance is a very good paper product. And I did. This is like the first at a glance notebook that I had. And unfortunately, I cannot find another A5. I believe this is an A5 because I researched it. I cannot find another A5 just plain at a glance notebook. They have like the planners with the calendar. I don't want that. I just want a notebook. Like I would buy a whole case of these because another thing was it's so easy to just carry around with me, and it's lightweight. I could just drop it in my purse or in my bag back then because I was always carrying a backpack or yeah, a backpack for school. And it was just so easy. It didn't feel cumbersome in my hand. Like if y'all come across any notebooks like this, send me the link so I could go stack up on them. But I think they discontinued them. I think I found this at like Office Depot or Staples, and it was the last one they had. And I literally wrote on every piece of paper here. Anyway, long story short about some good quality paper. But good quality paper makes the difference. It really does. Then I started testing pens. I remember that day. Again, I went to Staples. This is when um I again was on a hunt for good quality paper and pen. I went to Staples. I researched, right? I knew because I like to write big, so I need pens with large tips. Like I don't know what they call it. Do they call it a ballpoint? No. Metal tip. It's a tip where the ink comes out. I need a tip that's big enough that gives me enough ink to write my letters as big as I like to write them, right? And so I did some research, or maybe I borrowed this pen type, a Pentel Energel from someone that I worked with, and I liked the pen, but I hated how small the tip was. So I went into Staples and I looked for this pen to see because I knew some pens had, bigger size metal tips. And I found it, and it was a 1.0. And I remember taking a picture of it. I was like, this is going to be my pen. And these pens aren't super expensive in comparison to like how much pens can be. You could buy a pen for like $30, $40, one single pen. But it's fairly expensive in comparison to like the cheaper, lower cost pens. Like you get two of these maybe for $8, $12, something like that, maybe three. I order them from Amazon. I think I get a pack of three or four for like $9. But I love these pens and I stock up on the refills, right? So I know that was a whole lot of. But the reason I'm telling you that is because this is when I decided to um to be more intentional about my career moves, right? And extend it out beyond just getting a degree. Because at that point, I had gotten my AA degree. I was a non-traditional student. I had got my AA degree. I had got a bachelor's degree in business administration. My specialization was marketing. And then I was in the Master of Social Work degree program. And went to an admin program, right? And so this is where I decided to get more intentional about my actual career and extend it beyond just what degree do I want next, right? Because I knew that I was quickly approaching finishing my degree program and I wanted to do something bigger as far as work, something more impactful, something again to address those inequities in the workforce development system. So I bought me a good pen, bought me a good paper, and I spent every day for months, right? So this starts January 30th, 2019. And I had another one that started 2018, 2017. Um, yeah. And it goes the whole year. And every day I would write a new goal in here, a new daily goal, and I would work on achieving that goal. I also mapped out like my bigger goals that I wanted to achieve. For example, like I mapped out my whole doctoral program, my whole PhD program, like the selection process, what I wanted my research area of interest to center on, like what I was looking for in a program, when I would start applying, like all of the key decisions around it. I even started mapping out like what I was going to do for employment when I was in the dissertation writing phase of my program, which I'm in currently. And the plan was always to start a business, and I did just that. I wrote in here about my plan to get larger roles. And I did just that. I got 4 macro jobs. I served as the director of a global learning pathway. I served as a policy consultant of a workforce development program, actually the same one that I used to work on the front lines in. I got a job in higher ed, and I worked with the one of the oldest think tanks in Washington, D.C., where I provided technical assistance and guidance and support to mayors and their senior level executive leadership. All of that was mapped out here. I mapped out what my skills gaps were, which at that time was that I did not have experience managing large budgets. And when I say large budgets, I'm not talking about $5,000 like at your local nonprofit. I did that years before as a transitional housing coordinator. Excuse me, years after, because I started this in my case management job. My first one, I've only had 2 case management jobs, but I mapped out, like I knew that that was a skills gap because at that time, my trajectory was a little bit different. I was like, at some point in time, I'm going to be the head of somebody's organization, right? However, it's changed since then. I now understand that in order to be impactful, I don't have to be the head of the thing, that I can create change anywhere within an organization. So anyway, at that time, my skills gap was that I had not managed a large budget, like in the millions. And so, or been a part of a large budget or oversaw anything connected to a super large budget. And so I created a professional development plan, which is an extension of your career plan that you should have. And I was like, this is how I'm going to get the experience. And I did just that, right? And so I share all of that. And that was a whole lot about a whole lot, right? But I shared that for one, to show you, to illustrate how intentional I was about my career moves, right? I always tell people that I do nothing by happenstance. I do nothing by, I just woke up today and I decided to do this. No, I don't operate like that. I am very strategic in nature. Unfortunately, that was, I don't know if it was always in me or if it was birthed out of all of my years in survival mode, but here we are today, right? And it has served me well. Now, I can admit that I'm not a type A personality. No offense to my type A people, but I'm not a type A personality where I'm like obsessing over every detail on the plan. This is more served for me as write the vision, make it plain, right? I wrote it down, I revisited it on a daily basis. If life happened, I changed, I put it to the next day. I didn't like I didn't I didn't like go like really lose it because something changed and things like that. I'm reading what I have in here. I even have my morning devotion wrote down because I realized that I needed to start fortifying myself for this much larger work that I felt called to do. I have my scriptures of the day. Oh, I have things written down that I wanted to look into as far as like fellowships, right? I have my thoughts and reflections about what I was learning about my area of interest, specifically around like because yeah, specifically around like my area of interest for my PhD program, what I my new learnings regarding my population and issue as far as macro level work. If you're not familiar or you're new here, I specialize in workforce development, specifically serving youth and young adults and creating more opportunities than barriers to connect them with good quality, good paying jobs so they're able to achieve lifelong self-sufficiency through employment, right? Um, yeah. I have new terms in here that I was learning. Yeah, so I share that to say, right, that you have to be very intentional about what you're doing in your career. And this is more of just a let's chat about the thing because I really wanted to come on and encourage you to, if you are moving in a very reactionary way where like you don't make decisions about your career, you don't take action in your career over and beyond a degree or an education program, or you only look for a job once you are completely burnt out or until the people at work are getting on your nerves or until you're facing a layoff or your position being eliminated. You are moving in a very reactionary way. And I encourage you to take in what I just illustrated for you and let it serve as a point of reference about the importance of having intentionality in your career. Again, over and beyond what degree, what certification, what license am I going to get next? That is an education plan when you're in the education system. And then if you're not in the education system and you're planning to like go back, that is a professional development plan, but you still need a career plan. And so a career plan is where you map out like what positions you're going to apply for when, what skills, what transferable experiences do you need to be gaining in your current job to position you for your next one? What will be the timelines and milestones of how you will measure your achievement of the goal, right? What is the ultimate goal? What is the long term, bigger goal? What I was sharing in the conversation last night is that what I've identified is that social workers experience two very distinct dilemmas in their career when they don't have a career plan. And for the most part, a large percentage, a super large percentage of the social workers that I have met online over the last 5 years don't have a career plan, right? And so, as a result of that, the two big dilemmas that you will experience. And I'm sharing this so you can self evaluate to determine are you experiencing the thing, right? To one, to admit if you're experiencing the thing, and two, to tell you why you're experiencing that, right? So the two dilemmas is first, when you don't have a career plan, what happens is you start feeling like all over the place in your career. That's how I explain it. And people repeat it back to me. So I know you all understand what that means. Like you feel very confused, you feel uncertain, you don't feel secure about what you should be doing next in your career, what your next move should be. Should you stay in your current organization? Should you be leaving your current organization? Is it okay to be in this position for 10, 15 years, 20 years? Someone was on a live last night. She said she was in her job have been in her job for 25 years, right? And if you do have deeper desires about moving, about getting another job, you don't know what the move should be, right? So sometimes what it can result in is you defaulting to maybe being pressured by supervisors at your current case management job to apply for a supervisory job, even though you never had a desire to be anyone's supervisor or to be approving anybody's timesheet, but now you found yourself in this supervisory role and you've been there for 5 years and you looking around like, how did I get here? This wasn't a part of the plan. But the truth is, you got there because you didn't have a plan. So you were easily persuaded to apply for a job or take a job or accept a job that you never had your sights on, right? Because you did not take the time to one, get clear, right? That's a whole nother conversation about clarity. You didn't take the time to get clear about what it is that you want to do in your career. So what happens is you let other people tell you what you should be doing in your career, right? Another way that looks is that you jump from one OG social worker, one veteran social worker to the next, and you pick up their little pieces of advice, right? Even though you figured out five OG social workers ago that that career advice did not serve you well, right? So it may look like you have an overabundance of mentors because y'all love a mentor and it don't help you and you still in that same job, but you got five mentors and they telling you about what they did 20 years ago and the job market changes literally day to day. We see it in the news right now, right? So it looks like you have an overabundance of mentors. However, you don't have any prospects of opportunities outside of case management work. Okay. It looks like you taking advice from all of the random people on the internet again because you don't have any structure, you don't know what the bigger goal is, you don't have a plan, so you're more susceptible to be persuaded to listen to this person, listen to that person. One day you want to start a business, one day you want to work with youth, one day you want to start a nonprofit, one day you want to go into clinical therapy, one day you're working with this population, one day you're working with that population. That is okay for someone with 2 years or less of experience. But when you have 2+ years on average, you all that listen to me, follow my work, you have five, closer to 10 years of experience. And that's not just social work experience. That's social work, that's experience before becoming a social worker. A large percentage of social workers are career changers. You meaning you are people who had whole different career lives before going to school to get your social work degree. Many of you were bank tellers. Many of you were certified nursing assistants. You were teachers in the K through 12 system. You did work. Somebody was on my live last night. He said that he used to be a chemistry teacher in his home country, right? And so you had these whole different lives. You were accountants, but then you decided to become a social worker, right? So just because you decided to change careers doesn't mean that everything that you did prior to that degree just falls off the face of the earth. No, it's still calculated in your time in the workforce. Many of you were servers, you worked in restaurants, you worked in retail. All of that is calculated in, right? And so I say that to say, because you are a career changer, you have this experience that's well over 5 to 10 years. And so when you are that far into the game in your career, You should be moving with a little more strategy, with a little more intention, right? And the other thing that I thought about this morning, I was like, I'm gonna come on and talk to y'all about this. I thought about it this morning. I said, if things were a little bit different, people always say I wouldn't go back and change anything in my life. I always say I don't really believe it. I don't know why. I just never really believe it. I think people don't want to be as forthcoming because they're fearful they'll hurt somebody's feelings. But however, I was thinking about this morning, had I known what I know now, and if I had a better support system, 17-year-old Marthea, when I graduated from high school, what I would have done differently was I would have listened to the adults in my life and went to college straight out of high school instead of being so introverted and afraid to go be around the people and want to stay home around my familiar space. I would have applied to colleges out of my city at minimum 2 hours away, right? That was a requirement for my daughter because I watched so many people who stayed in the city where they lived, where they grew up and went to college and they never finished on time because you get wrapped up in your old ways and your old environments. Even if you weren't like far out there, you still get wrapped up in a thing. So I would have applied to a college 2 hours away. I would have went. I would have did my studies because I already had an advantage over people in my age group because I graduated technically a whole year early, right? So I would have went straight into college, got and that's the thing. Let me back up. I had a plan like that. I just remember I had a plan like that, but life was a life in back then, right? But it was a plan that I created once I realized I was here. That's how I know. Like I've always been very strategic when it comes to career and education stuff. Just always. And I'll talk about the plan that I created as like a plan B. But what I would have done was left the city and I would have chosen a major based on what my interests were at that time. And I would have like gone straight into my career and I would have hustled to no end in my 20s and my 30s so I could retire early in my 40s. I would have started investing as soon as I started getting a paycheck. I wouldn't have took no gap year, nothing, right? Because I always knew that I don't want to work until whatever the retirement age is. I just learned what it is. It's 65. I never looked it up because I knew that wasn't my goalpost. But I would have hustled to no end. I would have did it while like I was still, optimistic about the things because optimistic, but when I say that more of like when my energy was super, super high, it's still high, but it was super, super high in 20s, right? I would have hustle, 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 hustle. I would have paid down any debt that I had. I would have bought houses. I would have bought my home, like forever home. Back then, especially when houses were cheaper, I would have bought land. I would have invested. I would have had a diverse portfolio of investments, not just my retirement. I would have stocks. I would be making my money make money for me, right? So then by the time I hit 40, I could retire and go be living off my multi-million dollar investment portfolio because I've invested so like so good. I don't know another word. That's what I would have done. Looking back at what I know now, but the world was a different place. We didn't necessarily have the internet like that, but now that I have the internet and I'm exposed to all of this information and you can hear people's stories and you can hire a coach and they'll teach you the strategy, the shortcut and get the thing, I would have hired everybody. I would have learned how to invest. I would have learned how to do investments in property. I would have let my employer be my silent investor. I would have still started my business as another way to bring in another revenue stream of income. But I would have did things a lot different, and I would be retired at the age of 40. Right? So I'm not all based from that, but still, I had like a 10-year delay before getting there. But I was thinking about that this morning. Like I would have did that differently. I would have been a lot more intentional, right? Instead of thinking like, oh, I got time. No, do it while your youth is there. Do it while your energy is high. Do it while your interest is there. Do it before you start becoming everything to everybody else, before you become a parent, before you become a spouse, before you have to become the caregiver of your aging parents, before you have to do all of the other things, before you become an auntie, before you become an uncle, right? Do it while it's just you in the world. So that's what I would have did differently. And so I shared that because when I talk about the dilemma that social workers face, where they are easily persuaded by other people, that's one way, right? If I would have had a plan coming straight out of high school, I'd be like, no, I'm going to do this, this, and this. So it wasn't until like life got real, real for me and I had my daughter, that's when I started getting very strategic about like the steps I need. Well, let me back up. It was before I had her. Because when I didn't go off to college, I came up with a plan that what I was going to do was I was going to go to the local technical college and I was going to get my cosmetology license because I did hair on the side back then. I was going to get my cosmetology license. This is when the realization came, when I became a homeless young adult and I didn't have a support system. I'm like, I'm gonna go to the technical college. I'm gonna get my license in a year. Within a year, I'll have a way to make money with my hands, right? And this is before I had my daughter. I'll have a way to make money with my hands, and I'll have the flexibility to have a flexible schedule, and I will then go to the community college at night and work on my AA degree. And then from there, I will be able to still do cosmetology, do hair on the side, and probably get a job because now I have an AA degree and I'll transfer to get my bachelor's degree. But life kicked in. I had a baby and that didn't happen. I tried to do it. I did start it. I started the cosmetology program, but that was life was going on. When you home, when you houseless and you are the sole provider for yourself, this is before I had my daughter, I had to sit that to the side, right? And so I say that to say, had I had a solid career plan at the time of graduation from high school, I would have had the plan. I would have been focused on what the goal was, and I wouldn't have been easily dissuaded, right? Even though I was the one that dissuaded myself, nobody said, Marthea, stay here. People actually told me to go away, right? So that's the first dilemma. You get easily dissuaded, right? So that may be, I just gave you a broad overview of what that looks like once you're fully in your career, but also what that could have looked like when you were coming straight into the real world as a new graduate from high school, right? So another thing that I see for social workers, the dilemma that they face is that they have goals, right? So we're all familiar as social workers with SMART goals, right? On some level, where you have the large goal, the large overarching goal, but then you have the steps that you have to take to reach the goal. What I see social workers do, the dilemma they face is that they don't have a large goal, right? Again, because they don't have a career plan. So they don't have a career plan. They don't have a large goal. However, what they're doing is amassing and completing all of these smaller goals with no clearly defined definition. Okay. So what that looks like is I'm going to get a job in a community health center, or I'm going to get a job as a medical social worker or in a public library, right? Okay. So you got the job. What's next? What goes from there? And then it's not until you start feeling some pressure in that job, right? The people getting on your nerves, you're getting tired of talking to the participants and the customers all day. And you're like, I don't want to do this all day. So then you start looking for other jobs or you start looking for certifications and degrees and programs, but you never take the time to say, where do I want to be long term? And what steps do I need to strategically be taking to get me there? right? How this shows up in your career is that you work with a multitude of different populations, a multitude of different settings. Again, it's for people with 5+ years of experience, 2+ years of experience. All of you have, a lot of you have 10+ years of experience. And when you look at your resume, it looks one of two ways. You have either worked with a multitude of unrelated populations. 1 minute you're in the education system, 1 minute you're working with the elders, 1 minute you're working with the houseless population, 1 minute you're working in nonprofits, 1 minute you're working in education with students. That don't go together. It don't go together. And that's when your career feels all over the place, right? Another way that shows up for social workers is they stay in the same comparable roles year after year. They just change the organization. They may get in, like experience a lateral move within the same organization. But when you look at your resume, you're still social worker one, social worker one, social worker one, social worker one. And you've been in those same types of roles for 10+ years. You're not moving because you don't have a plan in place. Ideally, for my coaching clients, they move about every 2 years until they get to where they want to be. This is how my coaching clients are in their second, third, fourth, fifth macro job because it's a part of the plan to get them as proximate to power as possible. So I broke down to you 2 dilemmas that you face as a result of not having a career plan. I even went as far back as high school, right? As high school to show you like what that looks like, what it should look like. The example I gave my coaching clients yesterday in our coaching call is like with my little cousin. She's an adult. She a whole married woman, but she's still my little cousin. And she's a veterinarian, right? So as a child, the example I gave my group yesterday was just like an example, but her true career path trajectory was as a child, her mother, um, it was study animal science, right? So as a child, her mother had her and her sister in a lot of like experiential learning activities, right? They took horseback riding. In the summertime, they would be at the farm with the horse, caring for the horse. It wasn't a job because they didn't have to work because my cousin, her father is a mechanical engineer. Her mom's a stay-at-home mom, so they didn't have to work, right? However, on the weekends and during the summer months, they would be on a farm taking care of their horse that they owned. Her and her sister had horses of their own. They would be like caring for the horse, feeding the horse, maintaining the barn, giving the horse medicine, whatever the things is in the parameters of what you can do when you own your own horse. They did all of that, right? Because I would see the summer pictures. So that's what her mother had her doing from um, elementary, middle, and high school. And it was all age appropriate things. When she graduated from high school, she immediately went into her undergraduate degree program to get a degree in animal science, veterinary science, something, 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 right? Because you still had to go to medical school to become a veterinarian. Or maybe it was like a science or something like that. But she went into that. And in that, during the summers, she would get fellowships for pre-vet students, right? So she got multiple fellowships each summer. Each summer she would go to different states, different countries, and she would be immersed in all things of one day I'm going to become a veterinarian, right? All of her experience was centered around that. She wasn't at the local summer camp down the road providing summer camp counseling and support to K through 12 students. No, she was in a center, like a university system. Actually, it was a medical, like a med school system where she was being exposed because at some point she was going to transfer upon graduation to this veterinary program. Okay. Once she graduated with her undergraduate degree, she then went to vet school. I think it was in Tennessee, right? So a well-known veterinarian school. She passed with flying colors. She did all of her work. She did her residency, all the things that come along with that. Again, during the summer, because she didn't work during the school year, during the summer, she had jobs at veterinarian hospitals. I know I'm probably saying it wrong. She had jobs at vet hospitals. She was interning. She was interning, doing paid employment, but she's still working in an adjacent role that's preparing her. So she worked as like a vet tech and did different things like that. So then when she graduated from the veterinarian program, she's now a full-fledged veterinarian. On her resume are all of the related experiences. Even the things she did in pre-high school, you can count that. One of the misconceptions is you all think that volunteer, internship, practicum, things like that don't count as paid employment does. It does. And on resumes, when you learn how to read them correctly, you will see where employers say, please include unpaid internships, volunteer opportunities. We consider all of that as relevant experience, specifically for macro jobs. I'm not talking about micro jobs. Right? So when she graduated, she has this exhaustive CV, resume, whatever you want to refer to it based on your organization type, where she has years of relevant aligned experience. Why was that? Because in elementary school, my little cousin said she wanted to be a veterinarian. So everything around becoming a veterinarian was strategically curated throughout her developmental and educational milestones. That was a career plan she had in place. And she achieved her goal. She didn't have to drop out. She didn't have to change majors 500 times. She didn't have to do any of the things. She stayed with the plan because she was clear on the goal. And she had a plan. She wasn't figuring out one step as she went. Like, oh, okay, well, I did that this year. What should I do next? No, she sat down and mapped it out. I'm going to go here for undergrad, and then I want to go here. I'm going to take these specific courses. I'm going to choose these specific fellowships. I'm going to get this specific summer job because it gives me the relevant experience that I need to get to the ultimate goal. Right? So that's an unrelated profession. But I wanted to illustrate for you again how a career plan really is the cornerstone for the people that you see that you believe are like super successful. Having career plans saves you time, it saves you money, it saves you energy, it saves you emotional turmoil, right? How it saves you time is you're not spending time in positions that are not lending to the end goal, right? You're not spending 5 years here and 5 years there and 10 years there until you realize this is what I really want to do, right? It saves you money. It gets you quicker to your maximum earning potential. You don't spend time in low wage, dead end jobs because you're just taking the first thing that comes along. It saves you money. It saves you energy because you're not burning yourself out doing work that you are not aligned with. The truth is, yes, social workers get burnt out because of um, being overworked, but a large part of that is because you are not in alignment. You are not doing work that is innately of interest to you. You are not doing work that gives you exposure to the things you're passionate about. So it burns you out faster because every day you go into a job that you just can't stand, right? I always say we're not going to be jumping doing backflips to go to work. But hey, if you got to work, right? If you have to work to provide a living for yourself on some level, you should enjoy something about it. Even if it's just a population, even if it's just the interest, even if it's just because you're an artist and they let you create artistic stuff, right? So many of you are getting burnt out because you are going to jobs every day that you cannot stand. You can't stand the population. You can't stand it. You can't stand the organization type. You can't stand the issue that you're working on. You can't stand nothing. That's how you get the burnout. So a career plan helps you save energy, right? Because you're only moving in aligned spaces. You're moving in an aligned pace. Okay, based on where I am in life right now, I'm 25. I'm quickly realizing that this little girl work, this little boy work that I've been doing is getting on my nerves. I don't want to run behind the youth no more. I want to do like I want to get my corporate girl era on. I'm just using that term because that's what the people use, right? You want to step into a big girl role, right? This is where I am. I'm ready to shift, right? Or maybe you are in your early 30s and you're like, I'm ready to start a family. I'm ready to buy a home. I'm ready to get married. I'm ready to pay down my debt. I'm ready to start traveling more. Your priorities and the jobs that you're taking will need to shift, right? To compensate this new life that you're ready to step into. Okay. And so a career plan helps you create that pacing based on what you have in plan, what you have in mind for your life. Right. So if the goal is I want to retire by 45, you need to be taking jobs that allow you to maximize your income. That means you shouldn't be spending years and years and years in a $50,000 job. You should be applying for jobs that are 250 and above, which is possible using the experience that you have if your confidence there. And that's a whole nother conversation. A lot of y'all confidence ain't there. So I share all of that to say a career plan helps you save money. It helps you make money. It also saves you emotional distress, turmoil, whatever word you want to attach to it, because it makes certain, it alleviates you just feeling all over the place, uncertain about your next move, uncertain about your career opportunities, uncertain about what you should be doing when, uncertain about your future and your ability to sustain your lifestyle, uncertain, uncertain, uncertain. And I don't talk about federal workers a lot because I don't help people get federal jobs. I help people get non-governmental jobs doing macro level work. But for the people who are recently laid off or who are possibly going to be scooped up in this massive layoff situation, I hope you got a career plan because it's time to kick in. It's time to activate. Okay, I was going to put off getting this other position for a year or two. It's time for me to kick in the gear and get this one now because the people tripping over here. And I need to exit stage left. Okay, so it helps you save distress because you have a little more certainty. Because also with the career plan, you should be combining it with proven strategies and techniques, right? And so that's what I teach my coaching clients in the career accelerator. We're not just creating a plan and don't know the actions and the steps we need to be taking and the proven strategies to get the win. I'm teaching them that. But you first got to have a plan. And then I teach you how to get there inside of the micro to macro career accelerator. So I share all of that. I have taught way long. Can you tell I ain't been on here really talking to you? I ain't really been on here talking to y'all. The introvert has kicked in. She here, y'all. I'm in the talking mood. Okay. So I share all that to say this weekend, February, what is the month? February 28th, March 1st, and March 2nd of 2025. I am having a 3-day in-person virtual career retreat, career planning retreat, where I'm going to take you through the steps of creating a career plan for yourself. I'm going to teach you about the steps that you need to be making to strategically pivot to non-case management roles, macro roles only. I only teach people how to get macro roles. I don't know nothing about nothing else. I'm not one of them people that be like, I can help everybody. I can't help everybody. I only specialize in one thing, right? So if you're interested, click the link down in the episode show notes, especially if you've listened this far, because that means that you know you need a career plan, especially after listening to like all of the signs and indicators that I just shared. So click the link, visit macroandpaid.com, purchase your ticket to attend the retreat. It's the first time that I've ever offered a multi-day anything to the public, right? Normally my workshops and webinars are one day for a few hours. This is a total of 2 hours, excuse me, 6 hours spread out over 3 days. It's going to be good because the tangible takeaway is that you're going to have a clear understanding and a drafted out career plan for yourself. Okay. So I want you to come and tell a friend to tell a friend to come. And if by the time you listen to this episode and the dates have already passed, still click the link down in my episode show notes. Visit macroandpaid.com in the description box and attend whatever I'm offering for that month because you need a career plan. Okay. And again, the question that I'm going to leave with you, and I want you to drop this down in the comment box for me. Are you choosing your career or letting it choose you? Are you choosing your career or letting it choose you? Do you have a plan or do you not? Are you flying by the seat of your pants? Are you taking the first job that floats by? Are you letting everybody and their mama convince you about what you should be doing and don't have a clue about what you really want to do or how to achieve the thing that you think you really want to do? Are you choosing your career or letting it choose you? Drop down in the comments and tell me, I'm choosing my career, or respond with, I'm letting it choose me. All right, I'm going to go. I'll talk to you later. Happy macro career planning. Bye.